I always thought I had it figured out. I was the girl from a small town who broke free, left the cornfields behind, and made it big in LA. The girl who built a fortune from nothing, living in a $6 million oceanfront villa, watching the sunset every night as if the world owed me this. But that night, my housewarming party, I learned the hard way that nothing is ever what it seems. It was supposed to be my moment, a celebration of everything I'd worked for. My parents, Gregory and Patricia, had refused to come, of course. They'd never been fans of my success, and honestly, I was starting to think they'd never be. But when they showed up uninvited, hours into the party, when the champagne was flowing and the music was blaring, I froze. Gregory's face was stormy, Patricia clutching a photo album like it was her weapon of choice. And then, as if the universe was slapping me in the face, they hit me with the truth I never saw coming. I wasn't their biological daughter. The words felt like a punch. I couldn't breathe. All those years of emotional sabotage, all the guilt trips and late-night fights, suddenly made sense. But why had they waited until now? What was this really about? And then, just as my world was crashing, Caleb walked in, holding a certified letter from Washington State with my real biological father's name on it, Ethan Harlow, billionaire tech mogul, my real dad. Everything I thought I knew was about to unravel in front of me. What do you do when your entire life is a lie? What do you do when the parents who raised you never really wanted you? That night wasn't just a housewarming. It was a reckoning. And the worst part? It wasn't over yet. I can still feel the weight of the air in that room. The sound of the party, laughter, music, glasses clinking, faded into the background as I stood there, processing what just happened. My parents? The people who had shaped my entire life had just dropped a bombshell. I wasn't even their flesh and blood. But let me rewind a little bit. Growing up in Dayton, Ohio, there wasn't much to look forward to beyond the same old grind. Waking up, going to the hardware store with Dad, and watching Mom plan the next church fundraiser. They weren't bad people. They were just limited. Ambitious? Not so much. They didn't believe in dreaming big. And that was fine for them. It just wasn't for me. I knew deep down that I had to leave if I ever wanted more than that small-town life. So I packed my bags and took off for LA, scraping together scholarships and waiting tables just to make ends meet. Those years weren't glamorous. I crashed on couches, worked late nights, and hustled every chance I got. It wasn't until I stumbled into the tech world and my first real startup gig that I found my way. And when that startup exploded with the remote work boom, that was my golden ticket. Fast forward a decade, and I had it all. My own company, money beyond my wildest dreams, and the ocean villa in Malibu, my dream, finally realized. But I could never shake the feeling that something was off with my parents. They had never been proud of me. Sure, they acted like it, but it never felt real. I remember calling them after my first big deal, excited to share the news. They barely reacted, just a flat, "That's nice, honey," from Dad, while Mom's voice wavered like she didn't even want to hear it. And now, after all those years of being pushed down, of thinking I was never enough in their eyes, I found out that I wasn't even theirs to begin with. Patricia, my mother, if you could even call her that, clutched that photo album tightly like she was bracing herself. She said, "We didn't want you to know this. It wasn't the right time." I almost laughed. What was the right time? Was there ever a right time to drop a bomb like this? Gregory didn't say much, but his face said everything. He looked guilty, maybe even scared. That was the thing about Gregory. He was all about control. He hated anything that threatened his little bubble of stability. And I knew, deep down, this wasn't just about me finding out I wasn't their daughter. This was about him losing control. I felt a flicker of anger, a spark of something rising inside me, but I shoved it down. For years, I'd been the one trying to make them proud, trying to prove that I wasn't abandoning them when I left. But now I realized nothing I did could ever change the fact that they'd always seen me as a disappointment. Then, Caleb, my best friend from the startup days, walked in, the one guy who knew me better than anyone. He had his hand outstretched, an envelope in it, his brow furrowed. Dude, you need to see this. It just came in the mail, certified mail, from Washington State. I couldn't breathe. A pit formed in my stomach as I took the letter from him. My hands shook as I opened it, the words inside almost too much to process. It was from Ethan Harlow, my biological father. Camila, I've been looking for you. I want to meet you. Let's talk. And just like that, my life went from strange to downright surreal. Was this a joke? A twist of fate? A game I was too late to understand? The room felt smaller. I couldn't decide if I wanted to scream or laugh. Was this a dream? Was this really happening? Was the girl who had everything, money, fame, success, about to lose it all in one night? And then, before I could even react, Gregory's voice cut through the tension. You don't know anything about this woman. She's just going to take advantage of you. She doesn't care about you the way we do. A part of me wanted to believe him, but the other part, the part that had always questioned the life I'd been given, wasn't so sure anymore. I needed answers, but I couldn't figure out who to trust. My parents, the people who had been my rock, had lied to me. And now here was a stranger, my biological father, saying he'd been looking for me all along. What did that even mean? I needed to think. I needed space, but there was no time for that, not with everything unraveling so fast. The villa, which had been filled with life just moments ago, now felt like a pressure cooker. The laughter from the party outside seemed miles away, but it was still there, taunting me. As if the world was going on without a care, while I stood frozen, caught between my past and my future. I looked at my parents, the people who raised me, the people I thought I knew inside and out. But now they were strangers. Gregory was standing by the fireplace, arms crossed tightly, his jaw set in that stubborn way I remembered from all those years of arguments. You don't need her, Camila. She's a stranger. I've been your father your whole life. We gave you everything. Everything? The word slipped out before I could stop it. It tasted bitter. You gave me a small town. You gave me guilt. You gave me nothing that I actually wanted. Gregory's face darkened. You think we didn't sacrifice for you? We did what we could with what we had. We didn't need all this fancy stuff to be happy. But you, he gestured around the room, you've lost your way. I couldn't even look at him. Not anymore. Not when I realized how much he resented me for wanting more, how much he had been holding me back, intentionally or not. Patricia, who had been silent up until that point, finally spoke up, her voice low and shaky. We never wanted this for you, Camila. We wanted you to stay humble, stay with us. You think we're just small-town people, that we don't understand ambition? But we've seen it all before, people who forget where they came from. You're just like them now. You've changed. Her words hit harder than I expected. I had spent years trying to be the daughter they could be proud of, and now they were telling me I had become a stranger to them, a failure. Not because of anything I had done, but because of what I had become. Someone who wanted more. My chest tightened, but I didn't let the anger take over. Not yet. There was too much to untangle, too much I didn't understand. Before I could respond, Caleb stepped forward, breaking the tension. Look, Camila, you don't have to deal with this alone. He was trying to be the voice of reason, but I could tell even he was unsure of what to do next. The whole situation was way messier than any of us had imagined. But you can't let them control this narrative. You deserve to know the truth. Your biological mother... He trailed off, looking from my parents to the letter in my hand. I get it, girl. I do. But you have a right to know her, too. I looked at the letter again, almost afraid to read it one more time. Ethan Harlow. The name felt like a heavy weight on my chest. What kind of man had he become? What did he want from me after all these years? I turned to face my parents. The silence between us felt thick enough to choke on. "So you knew," I said, the words thick in my throat. "You knew, and you kept this from me." Grigory didn't meet my eyes. Patricia just stared at the floor. "Why now?" I asked again, though the question was more to myself than to them. "Why come here, ruin my celebration, and drop this bombshell on me?" Patricia wiped at her eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "We didn't want you to hate us. We didn't want you to leave us behind." I felt the heat of frustration boiling over. "I didn't leave you behind. I left for me. I left for something better, and you couldn't even understand that. You were so afraid I'd forget about you, but all I wanted was to make you proud." "Proud?" Grigory scoffed. "Is this how you think we'd be proud of you? With a house full of strangers and your success flaunted in front of us? You think that's the life we wanted for you? You think we'd be proud of that?" The words hit hard, but they were nothing new. I've heard them years. My success had never been enough. It wasn't the kind of success they understood, the kind that made them feel comfortable, in control. I looked down at the letter from Ethan again. It was a tangible symbol of everything I didn't know about myself, and it was calling me. The curiosity gnawed at me, but the fear of what it meant was even louder. And then, just as I was about to speak, a loud crash echoed from the party outside. The tension in the room broke for a second, and everyone rushed toward the balcony. I followed, my heart pounding. What the hell was going on? Outside, the scene was chaos. A group of influencers I had invited were arguing with the catering staff, and the band had abruptly stopped playing. There was shouting, confusion, and the music was completely drowned out by the chaos. I turned back to my parents, but they were already walking toward the door, their expressions hardening. I didn't know what to think. What was real anymore? My past? My future? All of it was crumbling before my eyes. But then my phone buzzed again. Another message. From an unknown number. "We're here." My heart raced. Ethan, my biological father. Was this the moment? The truth was finally within reach. But was I ready for it? My breath hitched. The message burned into my phone screen, the words blurring in front of me. "We're here." For a second, I just stood there, frozen. Could I really do this? Could I meet the man who was supposed to be my father? The man I'd never known? And what would it mean for me, for my relationship with my parents, if I let him in? I glanced at my parents. Gregory was standing with his back to me, arms crossed, as if he could will this all to go away. Patricia, her face pale, was still clutching the damn photo album like it held all the answers. "You're really going to do this, aren't you?" Gregory's voice cut through the silence, low and filled with something I couldn't place. Resentment? Fear? I took a deep breath. I have to. I didn't wait for a response. I turned and marched toward the door, feeling the weight of the moment. Outside, the air felt cooler, the tension thickening with every step. I could feel the eyes of my guests on me, but I didn't care. I was done playing their game. It was my life now. The gate buzzed, and I hesitated for a split second before pressing the button to open it. The driveway lights flickered, casting long shadows on the dark pavement. My heart raced, the sound pounding in my chest like a drum. And then, there he was, Ethan Harlow. A tall man, dressed casually, but there was something about him, something magnetic. He looked exactly like the man I imagined in my head. Sharp features, expensive sunglasses, and a confidence that felt almost too easy. He didn't smile, but his eyes, they were intense. It was like he was studying me. "You must be Camila." His voice was deep, smooth, and completely calm. I nodded, my throat suddenly dry. "Ethan?" He stepped closer, his gaze never leaving mine. "I've been waiting a long time for this." The words hit me harder than I expected. Waiting? How long? Was he really searching for me, or was this just some kind of game? Why now? Why show up now after all these years? He shrugged. It wasn't my choice. But after seeing your success, it felt like it was time. I couldn't let the past define what we could have now. The door to the villa opened behind me, and I felt a presence. I didn't need to turn around to know it was Gregory and Patricia, standing silently in the shadows. Ethan noticed them, his gaze sharp. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said, his tone casual but firm. "I just want to talk, to meet my daughter." The word daughter sent a shockwave through me. For a moment, I wondered if this was some cruel prank. But I could feel it. The truth was right here in front of me, staring at me in the face. The man who gave me life. The man who, in some twisted way, was the key to everything I'd been searching for. Gregory spoke then, his voice thick with something I couldn't quite place. "You think you can just waltz in here and take over, huh? You think you can just walk into her life like nothing ever happened?" Ethan didn't flinch. He didn't even look at Gregory. "This isn't about you, Greg. It's about Camila. She deserves to know the truth." The words cut through me. It was like I was caught in the middle of a war between two men who had been battling for control of my life without even knowing it. I could feel the weight of everything, my past, my future, everything pressing down on me. It wasn't just a confrontation between my parents and Ethan. It was a confrontation with myself. Who was I? Who did I want to be? And who did I owe anything to? But I didn't have time to think. I had already opened the door, and now there was no going back. Ethan stepped closer, and this time I didn't back away. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. This was it, the moment that could change everything. He extended his hand, his fingers relaxed, waiting. I paused, looking at my parents one last time. Gregory was standing tense, his fists clenched at his sides, while Patricia was still holding that damn album. But they were both silent now, just watching me. I turned back to Ethan, meeting his eyes. "You wanted to meet your daughter?" I asked, my voice shaking, but I couldn't stop myself. "Then let's talk." And just like that, the world shifted. The tension in the air was palpable as I stepped toward Ethan, my heart pounding harder with every step. This wasn't a meeting. It was a confrontation. The kind of moment you don't walk into lightly. His hand was still outstretched, waiting, and I felt a strange pull to it, like everything I'd done, every decision I'd made in the last decade had led me here. I could feel the eyes of my parents on me, heavy and judgmental, but I didn't let them stop me. For the first time in years, I didn't care what they thought. This was my moment. I shook Ethan's hand, the connection electrifying. It felt like something finally clicked in place, like a key turning in a lock I hadn't even known was there. "Thank you for coming," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but it cracked slightly. "I didn't expect this." Ethan gave a small, understanding smile, his eyes still intense, but there was warmth there now. "You don't have to thank me. You deserved to know the truth." He paused, looking over his shoulder at my parents, who were still standing at the door, frozen. "But I'm not here to disrupt anything. I just want a chance to be part of your life, if you'll let me." I could feel the weight of the words in my chest. Part of me was ready to run, to slam the door on this whole thing. But something kept me grounded. A voice inside me whispered that this could be my chance to finally make peace with myself. I nodded. "Let's talk." We moved inside, away from my parents, who hadn't made a move. I could feel the shift. Their silence was louder than any argument we'd ever had. As we sat down in the villa's study, I could almost feel the house holding its breath. Ethan settled into the chair across from me, leaning forward slightly, his eyes still focused on me, as if he were analyzing every movement, every word. I could feel the tension in my chest. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to understand who this man was, why he'd left me, why he'd never tried to find me before now. "I've watched you from afar for a while," he began, his voice smooth but filled with a slight edge. "I know this is a lot to process. Hell, I know this is a mess, but I had to find you. I didn't want to be the absent father. I made mistakes, but I can't undo that. I can only move forward if you'll let me." I tried to process his words, but it was like there was a block in my brain, a flood of conflicting thoughts crashing through me. Was he telling the truth? Was this genuine, or was he just a rich man looking to feel better about his past mistakes? "Why now?" I asked again. "What do you want from me after all these years?" Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. What do I want? To know you, to get to know the woman you've become, to make things right, if possible. You've earned everything you have, Camila, but I'm not just here to talk about money or success. I want to know about you, your life, your choices. It was the first time anyone had asked me that. My parents never cared about me, only about what I could do for them, how I could stay close to them, stay humble, stay small. But Ethan, the stranger, this man I had no history with, was asking me about my life, about my choices. Something shifted inside me. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was hope. For the first time in years, I felt seen, not for what I had, but for who I was. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if Ethan was here to stay or if this was some kind of fleeting moment. But for the first time in years, I didn't care. I was finally doing something for me. Okay, I said quietly. Let's start over. I want to know who you are, who I am now. Ethan smiled, and it felt like the first breath of fresh air I'd taken all night. But just as the conversation started to open, the sound of footsteps interrupted. The door to the study creaked open, and there was Gregory, and then Patricia. They had been standing there, listening, watching. Camila, you don't know anything about him. You think this is just some smooth talker, but he's the one who left you, left us, and now you're just going to forgive him like it's nothing? I felt a flicker of anger rise within me, but I quickly tamped it down. This wasn't about them. It was about me. I'm not here to forgive him, Gregory, I said, my voice steady. I'm here to figure out what's real, what I've been missing. Ethan looked over at my parents, his expression soft but firm. I'm not here to erase what's happened. I can't change the past, but I'm here now, and that's what matters. The air in the room thickened, but something had changed in me. I didn't feel like a kid anymore. I didn't feel like I had to choose sides. I looked at my parents one last time. You've always wanted me to stay small, stay humble, but that's not who I am anymore, and I'm not asking for your approval. I'm asking for my own freedom. There was no response, no apology, no grand gesture, just the weight of their silence. I stood up, walking towards the door, Ethan following close behind me. You're not alone in this, Camila, he said, a quiet assurance in his voice. I'll be here for whatever you need. The weight of the decision hit me like a wave, but it didn't feel like drowning. It felt like breaking free. For the first time, I wasn't making a choice based on guilt or expectation. I was making it for me. I thought I had it figured out. I thought I had finally broken free, making my peace with everything I'd learned about my past and the people I'd once called family. But as I stood there, feeling the weight of the decision I'd just made, I realized I was still just beginning to scratch the surface. The world I thought I knew, it wasn't even close to what it seemed. As I turned toward the door, ready to face whatever came next with Ethan by my side, my phone buzzed again. My stomach twisted as I glanced at the screen. This time, it was from an unfamiliar number. I didn't recognize the area code, but the message was enough to stop me dead in my tracks. Camila, I know what you're about to do. You don't want to go down this road. If you think you're going to find the truth, you're wrong. Your biological parents aren't the only ones with secrets. And the inheritance? It's not what you think. Stay away from it. I stared at the message, my fingers frozen on the screen. The text had a cryptic, threatening tone, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whoever had sent it knew exactly what was going on. But how? I felt my heart skip a beat. Someone was watching me. Someone who didn't want me to uncover what was buried beneath all these lies. I turned to Ethan, his calm demeanor now replaced by a slight furrow in his brow. He must have seen the panic in my eyes. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice low, as if sensing something was off. I showed him the message, my hand trembling. "Who the hell is this?" I muttered, trying to make sense of it. Ethan took the phone, his eyes narrowing as he read it. He was silent for a moment, and then, without warning, he let out a long breath. It's not just the inheritance that's dangerous, Camila. There's something else, something much bigger. The room seemed to shrink, the weight of his words settling heavily around us. Ethan, what the hell is going on? I demanded, my voice rising. What aren't you telling me? He hesitated, then glanced over at my parents, who were still standing by the door, watching us with wary eyes. For a moment, I thought Ethan might not say anything more, but then he looked at me, as if weighing his words carefully. Your parents, your real parents, didn't just leave you an inheritance. They left you a responsibility, something they thought you'd never be ready for. You're not just their heir, Camila. You're part of something much bigger than you realize, and it's been hidden from you for your own safety. I felt the blood drain from my face. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Ethan took a deep breath and sat down, his posture tense. Your parents, your real parents, were involved in a massive business venture, but it wasn't just about money. It was about power. They had a whole network, a group of influential people all tied to this inheritance. The business they ran, it wasn't just tech. It was far more dangerous, and it's all connected to you. I stared at him, disbelief flooding my senses. Dangerous? What the hell are you talking about? Ethan stood up, pacing now, his hands running through his hair. They knew what they were doing when they set up the trust. They made sure that no one could access it unless they passed certain tests. And they knew that one day you'd have to face these challenges. They never wanted you to get involved. But now that you found out the truth, it's too late. The weight of his words crashed into me. I thought everything was over. I thought I was ready to start fresh. But now I was learning that my entire life, every decision I'd made, was part of a game that I hadn't even been aware of. A game of power, secrets, and danger. So what do I do? I asked, my voice cracking with the weight of it all. Ethan looked at me, his eyes dark but filled with something I couldn't quite place. You have to decide. Do you walk away and let it all go, or do you step into the role they left for you, with all the power and all the danger that comes with it? I swallowed hard, my throat dry. This wasn't just a choice about family. This was about my future, about everything I'd worked for, everything I'd built, and everything I was yet to face. But as I stood there, the truth of it hit me. I had no choice but to face this. There was no walking away. The past, the inheritance, the people I thought I knew, none of it was in my control anymore. And if I wanted to truly understand who I was, I had to face whatever came next. And just like that, everything I thought I knew unraveled in my hands. I looked up at Ethan. I'm in, I said, my voice steady, though my insides were anything but. Ethan's eyes softened slightly, but the weight of the decision still hung between us. It's not going to be easy, he warned. I nodded. I'm ready. But deep down, I had no idea what I was about to get myself into. The final message hung in the air like a cold, heavy mist. My hand shook as I stared at the words on the screen, the letters blurring together as the weight of them crashed down on me. Camila, don't trust him. He's been lying to you the whole time. Who could have sent this? The question rattled around my head, growing louder with every passing second. Was it Ethan's enemies? Someone from my past? Or was it someone closer to me than I even realized? I looked at Ethan, his expression unreadable now. The warmth I had seen in his eyes before had evaporated, replaced by a guarded tension. I needed answers, and I needed them now. You're lying, I said, my voice cutting through the silence. Ethan didn't flinch. He didn't even look surprised. Camila, there's a lot you don't understand, but I'm not lying to you. I never have. But I wasn't so sure anymore. His words, his calmness, it all seemed too perfect, too rehearsed. How could I trust him when everything he'd told me had led me down a path I couldn't escape? Before I could say anything else, I heard a familiar voice, Caleb's. Camila, you've been played. He stepped into the room, his face tense, his eyes flickering between me and Ethan. Everything Ethan's told you, it's a half-truth. I've been digging into this, and trust me, you're not getting the full picture. I felt a surge of disbelief. Caleb, my best friend, the one person who knew me better than anyone else, was telling me that Ethan was lying? But why would he, and why now? I looked back at Ethan. Is this true? Are you using me? Are you playing me to get to the inheritance? Is that why you showed up? Ethan's eyes narrowed. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out, as if he was caught between his own lies, trying to find a way out that didn't make him look guilty. Caleb stepped forward, his voice steady. Camila, your biological parents left you with something, all right? But it wasn't just money. It was a legacy, a dangerous one that people would kill for. And Ethan? He's just one of the players in a game you don't even know the rules to. He's been using you to get closer to it all, to claim what should be yours by any means necessary. My mind was spinning. My hands were cold. I had trusted Ethan. I had let him in, believed him. And now it felt like everything I had done in the last few days, all the choices I had made, were wrong. I felt like a fool. But something in me resisted. No, I said, shaking my head. I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that everything I had done was for nothing. I can't. Caleb's expression softened, and for the first time, I saw the care he had always kept hidden behind his tough exterior. Camila, you've got to face the truth. You've got the power, you've got the choice, but you're not alone in this. Don't let them control you. Don't let them use you. I was silent, the weight of his words sinking in slowly. For the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't about inheritance, it wasn't about money or power. It was about me, my future, and who I was going to be. Ethan stepped forward, his voice low. You don't have to believe him, Camila, but I'm telling you the truth. There's more at stake here than you realize. If you walk away now, you'll be leaving everything behind. I turned away from him, looking out at the ocean through the massive windows of the villa. The vast horizon stretched out before me, calm and unyielding. I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me, despite the chaos that had unfolded. Camila, Caleb said, his voice softer now, you've got one choice left. You can go after this legacy, fight for it, or you can walk away and live your life without this burden. But whatever you do, don't let them decide for you. I was stood there, looking out at the ocean, the decision gnawing at me. It felt like everything was at a crossroads. The inheritance, the money, the power, was it worth it? Or was it just another trap, a dangerous web I'd been pulled into without even realizing? I turned back to Caleb, then to Ethan, who was still standing, waiting for me to decide. The room felt smaller now, the tension suffocating. I knew that whatever I chose, nothing would ever be the same again. And that's when I realized it wasn't about what they wanted me to do. It wasn't about what anyone else had planned for me. This was my life, my decision. I'm done, I said, my voice firm. I'm done being controlled, done being someone's pawn. I'm going to live my life for me, for what I want. No more lies, no more games. Caleb's face broke into a smile, and for the first time, I felt like I had a future I could control. Ethan's face was unreadable, but there was a flicker of something. Regret? Anger? I didn't care. I turned away from both of them, walking toward the door, the ocean breeze filling the room as I opened it. The world outside was waiting. For the first time in my life, I was going to face it head-on, with no strings attached, no past holding me back. And as I stepped out, I knew one thing for certain. I would make my own fate.